So the idea of a missions ministry weekend is to help all of Glenmar understand the vast array of missions that we are engaged in serving the world. There's so many that as the staff person responsible for seeing over all the mission ministries, it's hard for me to keep up with them. So I'm guessing that not everyone here is aware of the breadth of ways that we serve the world. I'd like to just highlight a few of the ministries that we're involved with here. Our food collection ministry. We collect food every quarter for food closets in Ellicott City, up at Ames Memorial in Baltimore, down in Hurley, Virginia. And yesterday's 4th annual Glenmar 5K, which was in support of the Maryland Food Bank here in Howard County. They raised over $7,800 and collected several hundred pounds of food for the food closet. One of the very family-friendly mission ministries we have is our Day of Service. For the past 2 years we've done this. It's a one-day event held on Martin Luther King Day in January. In the 2 years we've had this activity, we've had roughly 950 people volunteer to serve almost 20 different ministry areas, including packaging over 42,000 meals for at-risk populations. One of our partner churches for the Day of Service both years was Ames Memorial up in Baltimore. One of the ministries we do with Ames is the College and Career Prep Ministry, where volunteers work weekly with children and youth in Baltimore to help them reach their full potential. Shala Donaldson from Ames is here to talk about her experiences with that ministry.
Good morning.
Hi.
So I'm Shala Donaldson. I go to Ames. I'm a second-year college student at CCBC, and one of my favorite parts about missions trips and doing ministry in general is this feeling that you get at the end of it, not when you built something that you never thought you can build, not when you count your fingers to make sure you didn't cut them off using a saw, but when your homeowner is like looking you in the eyes and they're just so grateful that you took this time out of your summer, out of your spring break, out of your day off from school, and you gave that time to them to help somebody else. And it reinforces this crazy notion that you can do stuff for people without expecting anything back, and you still get something back, but it's just not tangible. It's something that you can take with you everywhere you go. So I always had that feeling reserved for missions trips, like when I went to Cherokee or Hurley or something like that. But and it was just always for missions trips until one day at Ames, we were doing a giveaway of toys and books and stuff like that to the community. The toys and books that we had were on the 3rd floor, and we have no elevator, they're just steps. And it's like they multiply times 10 when you have to carry toys down those steps with no air conditioning in the middle of the summer. It's just terrible. So imagine our dismay when we had toys and books left over. We did not want to carry them back up the steps. So there's a safe zone across the street from Ames. And the safe zone was started so kids would have a place in the community to go for free, that they could just go there, have fun, and learn and be safe. So we went there to see if they needed it, but of course they didn't, because it's just such a wonderful entity that they get donations and stuff out the woodworks, and they didn't need it. But next door was a daycare. So we went to the daycare, and they did need it. They were a new daycare, and they were doing amazing things. The owner and proprietor of the daycare, she started it because she used to be a teacher in the Baltimore City school system. And she wanted to make up for what they lacked in the system by allowing students or their kids to go beyond the curriculum and learn beyond that, because everybody learns at a different pace. And she was telling us about all the wonderful things they did and how they were new and they just needed as much help as possible. So us bringing those toys and books to the daycare, it really made an impact. And I got that feeling again, that missions trip's feeling. And it was nice to see it beyond the missions trip. So that happened like in other ministries that we did throughout the church on like Day of Service and stuff like that. So then when college prep came along, it was like a cool thing to do. I was a part of college prep at first as just one of the students to get help or whatever like that. And it was nice. And then I just started because I'm already in college when college prep started. So it helped me a little bit, or a lot, but not as much as it helped everybody else that was already there. So when I started noticing certain things that were going on in college prep, I just looked into how I could use my experience as somebody that's already been through the process to see how I could impact the program, and that led to me becoming an advisor. So sometimes I help with tutoring, sometimes I help with organizing field trips and stuff like that. We had some students go to Biztown, which is this cool place. One of the students there, Terrence, he wants to be an entrepreneur, and he will be an entrepreneur. And so I thought of Biztown because they teach you how to handle money and all those other things like that. And I thought that would be good for him for his entrepreneur business that he already started, and I'm just so proud of him. And it's like that feeling is there every time I go to college prep. Every Tuesday night at 5 o'clock, it's just amazing just to see the amount of progress that every single person there has made, and how my little hand in that has been such a big part of it. And how even just me being a role model and an influence to everybody else that's there, it's just really amazing just to see how that I've done something. And it's good because when you go to college, you're just focused on school, and you're just focused on getting out of school. And so the fact that I'm doing something while I'm there, and that can just helps motivate me just even in my classes and even in the way that I conduct myself in school, because I know that everything that I do can reflect back on college prep and can be an influence on somebody there. And it's just an amazing feeling to have. So it's your missions trip's feeling, but it's just beyond. So, yeah.
Well, the college and career prep is just one of many ministries that we work together with Ames to do. At Ames each summer, we host a 2-week robotics camp for kids in the community. We assist with their ongoing ministries like their food and clothing giveaways. And as you heard, we partner on mission trips with them as well, and they partner with the Day of Service. Ames is also one of the organizations that we work with our Wish Upon a Star program. Just this past year, these are stats just for 1 year, even though we've been doing Wish Upon a Star for 20 years. Christmas 2015, Glenmar donated gifts and grocery and shoe store gift cards to 29 families, which came from 5 different organizations, which totaled 145 people, 96 of which were children. We also made donations to Grassroots, Fort Meade, and the Board of Child Care. Altogether, Glenmar donated roughly $55,000 to help others enjoy Christmas. You'll be doing that after every ministry, so just you can save it till the end. A lot of gifts for Wish Upon a Star were purchased using gift cards from our gift card ministry, which is part of our extreme fundraising. Through sales of gift cards, registering shopper loyalty cards, collecting box tops, labels, printer cartridges, old cell phones, a whole variety of things. Glenmar has generated over $233,000 worth of proceeds, which have gone towards supporting inner city schools, rural schools, mission trip scholarships, donations to mission trip host organizations, ministry grants, and family accounts, which are used to help pay for mission trip participation. Much of Glenmar's mission ministry is actually focused on homelessness and housing issues. We're going to see a young man, Eric McGhee, sharing his experiences with the cold weather shelter.
Hi, my name is Eric, and I'm a former client at the cold weather shelter. I've been in the cold weather shelter for some years. It all started in 2004 when I was 18 years old. I mean, my experience in 2004 was real good. I mean, everything, the staffs, everything was good. I mean, I think the last year I was in the cold weather shelter, 2013. I had some bad experience. I mean, with clients and all that, but the staffs they was good. The staffs, I mean, yeah, they was respectful. They was. I mean, I didn't have any problems with the staffs, it was just like the clients, the people that I was staying with. I mean, bunch of, I don't know, bunch of drama. I mean, like I told the people in Glenmar, because I had it was 2 times in a row, I had like some incidents, like between me and another client. And I told the staff, I'm like these people don't realize that like the people at church don't have to like help us, like have somewhere to sleep, and it's like people didn't appreciate it. Like it was like the shower, like you got showers, and somebody used the shower, and then so when I went in to take my shower, I see all this water like this piled up on the floor. It looked like it was like somebody was trying to be funny or something. So I straight up, I ended up approaching the person, and it got ugly. You know what I mean? But and I almost got put out the shelter. But Mr. Doug Carr from Grassroots, he I don't know, like somehow talked to the staff, and I ended up staying and everything. But like my last experience the co-worker shelter, I really don't want to go back. So I do what I gotta do out here. Like, I mean, at first when I was in the co-worker shelter, I didn't have a job, but now I have a job.
What are you doing?
McDonald's, and I'm trying to save money and everything, so I won't ever end up back in no shelter. I mean, I met Ms. Betty and Mr. Dodds at Cornerstone, like a couple years ago, like in 2008 when I first met them. I ended up talking to a couple people about like I do music. I'm on YouTube. They let me like do my rap songs on like Sunday morning for church for the service, and like people would show me love. It felt I was a little comfortable. I was comfortable with talking to the staff. It was comfortable. Like when it came to like bedtime, I mean, I was comfortable. I knew I ain't had to sleep outside in the cold. I was warm, and I mean they had like bag lunches and breakfast, and they had good dinner. Like I said, I mean, had good food. I mean, it was kind of like people from church and the day center was kind of like my family. Like, cause my own family wouldn't even help me out in no type of way. I mean, these people, I mean, they show me that they care about me and all that. It's something that I'm not really used to. I mean, I thank God for the co-worker shelter, because I mean, I never like sleeping in the streets. Okay. It's cold out. It's cold out there, and outside is for the animals.
If you didn't catch it in the video, Eric is now living with a family at Glenmar because he met them at the cold weather shelter. They developed a relationship, and they didn't want him to have to not have a home. Speaking of the cold weather shelter, Glenmar is the founding church for the cold weather shelter, and we've hosted guests for 13 straight years. In addition, we do a lot of ministry with Grassroots, which runs Howard County's homeless shelter as part of their overall services. Maybe some of you have participated in bringing in either groceries or other requested items. Every week we collect 3 or 4 bags of donated supplies. That's every week for the past 3 years, which go to Grassroots. Once a month, Glenmar prepares dinner for the guests at the shelter. That's been going on for over 15 years. The last 5 years, Glenmar's hosted a golf tournament and silent auction as fundraising efforts on behalf of Grassroots. We've raised over $145,000 just in the last 5 years. In terms of transitional housing, Glenmar was one of the original founders of Churches Concerned for the Homeless, which has been renamed Bridges to Housing Stability. Today, we participate in the annual Hotter Than Thou Chili Cook-Off fundraiser. We contribute annually towards the Bridges budget, and we help volunteer with some of their services. Some of our housing ministry issues take place out of the immediate area, and Kelli Johnston's here to talk about some of the transformation her family has experienced through participation in mission trips.
Good morning. My name is Kelli Johnston, and I've been a member of Glenmar for about 16 years. And I've been asked to share about my family's experiences with Glenmar mission trips this morning. I'm sure you're all very aware of our nation's motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Well, if I had to sum up the transformative experiences my family has had as a result of Glenmar mission trips, I would have to say it would probably be E unum pluribus, out of one, many. You see, when my middle son was 13 years old, we stood at a sort of crossroads. He went to Sunday school every week, but he didn't attend youth group, and he didn't go to any youth activities. He didn't have a strong social network at church or at school. And additionally, he had also chosen not to go through confirmation that year. So as a mom, I feared for his impending transition into high school. I considered his lack of self-confidence and social skills, his strong introversion, and I was desperate to find a way, any way, to jumpstart his personal growth. So after listening to a lot of testimonies from other youth and adults at Glenmar Church, I decided that I was going to lay down the law. Come June, confirmand or not, he was going to join the rest of his Glenmar peers on that mission trip to Hurley, Virginia, no matter what. Pushing through all of my own fears that I had for him as his mom, I stuck to my guns and I signed him up. And when the day arrived, much to my son's chagrin and my humor, at D.C., or someone had brilliantly decided that hot pink was the way to go with the mission trip t-shirts that year. So here is my not very happy 13-year-old son in a hot pink t-shirt, stripped of his cell phone, which he had just gotten a few weeks before, squeezed into a minivan with 7 other kids and adults that he didn't know, being whisked away deep into the heart of Appalachia, or the middle of nowhere, or a foreign country for all he knew. As he stared at me through the back window of the van, with tears welling up in his eyes and this look of terror on his face, "Is this a huge mistake?" was all I could think. I'm a terrible mom. What am I doing? So I blew him kisses through the window, and it was the longest week of my life. But praise be to God, it was the best week of his. The day we picked him up, I could not believe the transformation that had taken place. He was a changed man. Yes, a man. Physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, and most importantly, spiritually. He still to this day calls that mission trip the single most important and defining moment of his life. He spent the next several years going on 9 more mission trips and even brought his high school friends along with him on several. I know, because I paid for that. By 10th grade, he came to me on his own and he said, "Mom, I'm ready to be confirmed." All the kids on the trips talk about confirmation and their experiences with it, and I want to have that experience too. So needless to say, I was pretty overjoyed. By this time, the mission trip bug had begun to spread in our home. After much encouragement and a lot of nagging, he gets that from me, from my son, I finally relented and I decided to push past my own introverted tendencies, concerns for missing work, and the fear of the unknown, and I signed myself up for a mission trip too. Within the first 20 minutes of meeting my first homeowner, a Hurricane Ike survivor in Galveston, Texas, I knew instantly that mission work would be a part of my life forever. My only regret was not having done it sooner. After just 1 week in mission, I felt like I could do anything. So of course it was only natural that the very next trip I signed myself up was to go to Merger, Haiti. Way out of my comfort zone. But by the way, it was a totally life-changing experience and I would highly recommend it for everyone. And to date, I have attended 5 mission trips. But the mission bug was still spreading in our home. Having watched his brother and his mother venture off into the world of service, my youngest son, Tim, having turned 13, was chomping at the bit by the end of 8th grade. I could not have held him back from mission. So off he went to Hurley 1, as we call it now, and his fellow confirmands. Fast forward to today, now a 16-year-old senior in high school. He has 8 mission trips under his belt. In the process of applying for the service academies this year, he was asked what he felt was the greatest, most important impact that he has had on the world. I was not at all surprised when he said that it was the mission work, but I was completely impressed, however, when he pointed out not the work, not the construction, not the relationships that he was building with the other kids and adults, but it was the hope that he was giving to the homeowners. It was the relationships that he was building with them and his faith that he was sharing that he felt had made the largest impact. And that, to me, was the brass ring. If I had an hour, I could share with you countless ways, and I would just add standing on this stage as one of them, because I'm terrified, that mission work has transformed me and my family and our friends. But for now, I will just sum it up as saying e unum pluribus. Out of that one single mission trip, there came many blessings. Thank you.
The reality is that the mission trip participants don't just give financially, they give time and energy on these trips. So in my time at Glenmar, which is just about 19 years, in that 19 years, Glenmar has sponsored 98 mission trips through 18 different organizations to 21 cities in 11 states and 7 foreign countries, with just under 3,200 people being sent out into the world from this congregation. Many of the youth and adults that go on the mission trips use an activity called the Green Team to help pay for their mission trips. It's important to note that the Green Team doesn't just raise money to support mission trips. The youth that are involved in Green Team, they made a decision several years ago that they were going to tithe. They are setting aside 10% of the proceeds from the Green Team for charitable giving, and to date they've donated $8,000 to mission projects and items for the church just in the last 4 years. And that's really just one example of how children and youth help show the way to our congregation here. Over about a 10-year period, the children and youth of the church have collected items, packed up, wrapped up, and shipped over 1,500 shoebox gift packages in support of Operation Christmas Child. This will be the 3rd year the Glenmar volunteers have helped at the processing center in Jessup. Also, over about a 15-year period, our youth generated over $130,000 of donations in support of the Ministry of World Vision through participation in the 30-hour famine. Now, while many youth participate in mission trips, adults also take part in these trips, and they also undergo transformation. So here's Lynne Phillips to talk about her experience involved with mission ministries.
Tell a transformation story, DC said. You get 5 minutes, DC said. That's not hard. And over the years, I've been fortunate to go on, I think 17, I lost count, but mission trips and days of service and nights at college and career prep. And it was really, really hard to pick out a story. But in the end, I, of course, landed on the one that I know DC thought I was going to pick all along. Something like 19 years ago, I found myself sitting at the old building at Glenmar, and I was scared and I was unhappy because my life was changing in a way that I hadn't planned. And my kids were going on a summer vacation with their dad's family and without me for the first time. And as I was leafing through the bulletin, I see there's a volunteers and mission trip going to Puerto Rico. The same week my kids are going to be gone. Now I have an almost paralyzing fear of flying, but I signed up for the trip and I went. And a lot of things about it were exactly the way I'd always wanted to go on a mission trip that I thought a mission trip would be. I got to go experience another culture. We stayed in a town called Utuado, right in the middle of town, and it was loud and it was noisy and it was boisterous and it was wonderful, and I loved that part of it. And being single, I loved the thing about being in part of a group of people that were sharing a common experience, like-minded people, and telling jokes and playing games at night, and all of that was great. But the work site was nothing like what I thought a mission trip was going to be. I thought you went somewhere and you did something and you finished it and you got to see the impact it was going to have on someone, and then you came home and that was it. So on the very first day, we took our 40 or 45-minute drive through the winding roads in Puerto Rico with DC driving, and we got there alive. And there were 4 cinder block walls standing in the middle of a small clearing by the road, just the walls, no corners, nothing holding them together. And as we talked with Pastor Leo, because I thought, I'm going to get to meet the family that's going to live in this house, although we're not going to finish it this week, he said, well, they're not even around right now. So here we were going to work on this project. We were not going to finish it. We were not going to get to meet the people who were going to live there. And I thought, this is not what I thought I was going to do. But it was cool, and it was fun, and we cut rebar by hand, and we tied it, and we poured concrete by hand with bucket brigades, and we did the corners, and we did the roof cap. But we did get to interact with the community, because next door to that property, and I will not be able to make it through this, were 2 women living with a whole bunch of kids. And I am not the kind of person who plans ahead, so my picture's not here, but it is on my scrapbook on the mission table out there. There was an older woman and a younger woman. And they were living in 2 absolutely horrific buildings, very little furniture, things laying on the floor, and the kids were playing on burnout cars. And I, with my Howard County middle-class sensibilities, thought to myself, why on earth would you have all those kids if this is all you had to give them? I thought that. And on Tuesday, the older woman, who by our standards had nothing, and we sat there with our coolers full of lunch and beverages we'd purchased at the store in town, brought coffee over to share with us as a gesture of hospitality. And sometime during that week, we found out from Leo that one of the babies was the youngest woman's child. Her companion was in jail. But the older woman was rescuing those children who were to all come from situations of horrific abuse, mostly sexual, and she was caring for them with what she had. On our last day on the job site, we stood in a circle on their property and we prayed in the mountains of Puerto Rico, and God was there. And then we drove away at the end of the day, leaving a shell of an unfinished building that we didn't know would ever be finished and who would ever live there. And I learned 2 things on that trip. The first thing I learned was you don't always get to see the end. You don't always get to finish the project and the joy of the people who experience it and drive away. Sometimes you do, and I have, and it's great. But sometimes you drive away from something that seems to you to be unfinished, but you know that God knows why you were there and what you were supposed to get done. The second thing I learned on that trip is I know nothing about people. I don't know why they act the way they act, and I don't know why they choose to make the choices they make, and I certainly do not know anything about their stories, because I really learned that on that mountainside in Puerto Rico. But I also learned that I know one thing. I know God's infinite, sacrificial, life-changing love. And I know that if I approach a mission trip or a day at the cold weather shelter or a night at college and career prep or even the line at the grocery store with an open heart and an open mind and no judgment, that I get to reflect just a little bit of that love to other people around me. God is good, and all the time, and together we are changing the world.
And the reality is we just don't have enough time to talk about all the ways that Glenmar is engaged in serving the world. We're involved with organizations like the Board of Child Care, Habitat for Humanity, Help End Homelessness Howard County, PATH, the Route 1 Day Center, the Salvation Army Thrift Shop. When you leave worship, there are displays from some of the ministries you've heard about, some of the ones you didn't hear about. But the opportunity to involve yourself in service and mission is as varied and diverse as your passions. Because if you go to the end of the table, you're going to find a display for HopeWorks, which is the Howard County Domestic Violence Center, which is a brand new mission opportunity that we have. And that's just an ongoing thing. If you haven't found some place to be involved, I'd love to talk to you because this is my passion. But the reality is, after 19 years of being part of this congregation, I know it's your passion too. Amen. Because we serve a loving God, a God that pours out grace and love and forgiveness abundantly, we have the opportunity to return back to God a portion that is already God's. Many times we do that through serving our brothers and sisters in acts of service and mission. Sometimes it's just the opportunity to give back from our financial blessings. Walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God.